about our next speaker. He is a cross-industry leader of excellence, innovation, culture, business, and digital transformations. And I'm talking about Rias Attar, and Rias is joining us now. Rias, go ahead and turn on your camera. There he is from Las Vegas, Nevada, I believe today. And Rias is an accomplished business strategist, transformation expert, operational excellence leader, project and change management professional, and all-around great guy. He has assumed senior leadership roles at different industries for various companies, from small organizations to Fortune 500 in the United States, the Middle East, and Canada. He is the author of the great book, Change to Win, and an industry awarded executive recognized for his ability to help strategize business architecture, identify areas to improve processes and outcomes, turn around business from deficient to profitable, lead innovation initiatives, champion operational excellence efforts, deliver challenging cross-functional programs, lead winning teams, and inspire staff to welcome change and deliver on ambitious results. Rias, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for taking the time to share your expertise for a global audience.
Thank you, Jose, and I appreciate you and I appreciate the introduction. Thanks again. Welcome everyone, and again, thank you for having me here. So we always talk about transformation and optimization and operational excellence, and in the financial industry specifically, this is also accelerating at a faster speed with the introduction of digital and acceptance of the digital transactions and so on and so forth. So all of that is wonderful, but that also adds a little bit of a threat. So I'm going to be focusing today on three elements. So we will be talking about the change itself, about the creation of value and growth, and then the most importantly, how to protect your stakeholders. And I think this is kind of the topic I wanted to focus on today, because I feel this is very sensitive when it comes to the financial industry. So basically, as we all know, change is not easy, right? But not changing can be fatal. We have seen many companies over the past, I guess, few years that have disappeared from business or from existence. Statistically, actually, 90% of the Fortune 500 companies that existed in 1955, the original ones, I think it's 92% has now gone. They no longer exist. Between 2000 and 2020, 52 of those Fortune 500 also disappeared, and that's pre-pandemic. Now, with pandemics, I don't have the statistics yet, but I'm sure that it will be even higher. And then going forward, I mean, they're saying that also the acceleration of shift of those organizations, the top 500, is accelerating. Now, the problem here is that this is the big giant companies. So can you imagine what will be the status of like smaller companies that do not have the wealth and the support that those Fortune 500 companies have? So why that happens in the first place is because organizations face consistent pressure, whether it's from market or economy or political pressure, whether it's from customer demands or technologies, competitive pressure, like competitors trying to find new ways to please customers and be more efficient. Cost is increasing, so they are kind of challenged in a place where they cannot raise their prices much, but their cost is rising very, very high. So how they can balance profitability. Mergers and acquisitions in the marketplace is also creating those like big organizations that are also competing with smaller ones. And of course, crisis and catastrophic events like COVID-19, for example. So all of those are putting a lot of pressure on organizations. Now, what happens is that most of the time, companies, even like individuals, right? You know, when we grow up or when we grew up, we wanted to conquer the universe. You know, we wanted to learn more. We want to go find a job. We want to, relocate from our like or move out of our family house and find new jobs and new opportunities in new countries. So we want to conquer the universe. So we start growing, and then as soon as we start making money, find that second job, we start building walls around us, which we start to protect what we have, and that becomes our comfort zone. And the same thing applies to organizations. So they become happy and familiar and feel safe and peaceful in where they are because they're happy with the outcomes that they're producing. So, but that's not what the ship is made for. And then you feel the ship is safe in the harbor, but it's not what the ships are made for. So the thing is, every time those companies, and of course individuals and leaders, try to get out of their comfort zone and they lose sight of that shore, they go back to their comfort zone. So until they kind of realize, the opportunity, and then they start to kind of look beyond that danger. But as soon as they get out of that comfort zone, they go into this danger zone, which get them feeling exposed and unfamiliar and unsafe. So once they go into that hump, which is like the learning zone, they start to find, oh, you know what, there is another shore on the other side of the ocean. Then they start to see that opportunity, and then they start to feel exciting again. And then they start to re-benchmark themselves and find that new land and new gold, and that's going to be their growth zone. And then they look back from that state and they say, we wish we have done it sooner. So I encourage you always, to think about how you can help your companies and leaders get out of their comfort zones and realize that growth zone. So this is more about adapting to change. So I encourage you, like Wayne Gretzky once said, to get out of your comfort zone and take educated risk. So you will miss the 100% of the shots you do not make or you don't take. So take some shots, but also make it educated. So I like this sketch here that I'm gonna put together on the screen, because we always have like our products and services as a baseline, and we always seek this optimal business results, profitability, growth, market share, and so on and so forth. So why we do this in the first place? Because we want to satisfy our shareholders, our bosses, the people who own the organization that we work with. So that's kind of shareholder satisfaction. We also want to satisfy our customers. So we want to have our customers served and satisfied so they can come again and they can tell other customers to come. So we want to share, we want to satisfy our customers. We also want to satisfy our employees because they take care of our customers and they take care of the corporate business as well. So we want to make sure that our employees are satisfied. And then we need to satisfy our community, because without our community, we will not be able to get like the supplies we need, the comfort that we have, the support, the task force, the people, and so on and so forth. So I like to kind of call it kind of a satisfaction of all those like stakeholders, those 4 stakeholders. Now, what we do about this is we address the people, process, technology, data elements, which we'll talk about a little bit in this presentation. And how we do this is by tackling strategy, delivery, and culture. And that's kind of one of the main topics that I talk about in my book, because I feel there's there should be an adequate balance of strategy, delivery, and culture when it comes to delivering business objectives. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So again, when we are going through any journey, or companies go through any journey to transform, optimize, grow their business, most of those efforts fail. In the matter of fact, statistically, 70% of initiatives fail to achieve their goals. And in my view, and basically, I find this based on like postmortems, that many companies focus so much sometimes on strategy without putting focus on their delivery mechanism, that the strategy does not get adequate attention. Sorry, the delivery mechanism does not get adequate attention. And sometimes even with delivery, they forget about the culture and change management. So the way that this should be is like this, which is like an equal balance between your strategy, your delivery mechanism, and your culture. So we're going to be talking about those 3 elements. So for strategy, for example, a good strategy always enables value creation. If it's not adding value, it's a waste of time. So think about how this strategy that you're putting or your organization is putting will add value, because change for the sake of change is meaningless unless we have a defined future state. So that change could be an increase of volume of work, or products that we sell, increasing market share, presence, increasing revenue, margin, increasing the value of the company. Sometimes you do not really report revenue or a bottom line like EBITDA or NOPAT for a few years because you're building your company value. Like Tesla, for example, this is what they did for many years. They were building on innovation until they were ready to show their quality. Cost savings, cost avoidance, and self benefits. Again, they find that value that you seek. Now, when you're drawing your strategy, make sure that you have that strategy as Northern Star. Whether your strategy is organic and or inorganic, make sure that all your initiatives align with that Northern Star. Because sometimes we get this this syndrome of shiny objects. We find the shiny objects here, and then we go, seek that shiny objects and forget about our focus and we lose attention on that what really matters, which is our strategy. So always think about your strategy and that Northern Star, and start to always focus on keeping that Northern Star as your guidance, right? So all the initiatives, all the work that you're doing should be aligned to that Northern Star. Another topic that I want to bring forward is that when we're working on transformation or optimization or operational excellence, usually some leaders and shareholders have higher expectations, and they think that value will be coming as linear. We will start having value tomorrow or next month or next quarter. Many times the value is really exponential. It starts very slow, and then at a certain point of time it peaks. So think about kind of educating your stakeholders about managing expectations and what and when they would be finding the value. So that's more about strategy. So let's talk a little bit about delivery. So Jordan once said, you can practice shooting 8 hours a day, but if your technique is wrong, then all what you become is very good at shooting the wrong way. So point here is that if we do not have a proper delivery mechanism, then our strategy can be ineffective. We need to deliver the initiatives that will deliver that strategy. So we have to have an action-oriented mindset. Those leaders that you have, the project leaders or operational leaders, they have to have this action-oriented mindset. My advice is coach them on how to bring the issues and resolutions, not only come with issues. Don't overcomplicate things with so many complicated tools. Try to keep it simple. Apply the rigor and discipline. Have some decent project management knowledge and best practices in place, and inspire that sense of ownership. I like to call it the entrepreneurial kind of mindset, and feel like each one of those employees and or leaders feel that this organization and that effort is part of their own. It's like as if its own company. So think about that, right? How they can be jealous about that company and the future of that company. So focus on the delivery and act fast, and of course leave no stones unturned. So in organizations that are mid to large, I strongly advise that they have some sort of like a PMO or maybe an enterprise PMO that enables that project management discipline by focusing on the delivery, control, and capabilities. So delivery will be deliver those projects and programs that they have with proper and adequate tools and techniques. Make sure that they have control to ensure to have a sustainable but also controllable intake process for all the new ideas that come in place, because many times you find that the organization gets overloaded with many initiatives that they again lose focus. So a proper portfolio management report would tell us how many projects are coming, how many projects we have capacity for, what's the status of those projects, and what the impediments that we need to remove. Ensure that we have a proper, the proper capabilities in place. Again, remember that action-oriented discipline through training and coaching and mentoring, and kind of more like show people how to fish versus fish for them. So you don't want to do every single project yourself, but you really want to kind of show people how to lead projects. So I also, as part of when we're building PMOs and project management, sometimes people like go crazy about tools that they make it so bureaucratic. So always differentiate between governance and bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is evil. Governance is needed. So governance, it just sets the tone of like who approves what and what goes into the pipeline, what's get funded, which one get activated, and so on and so forth. But you also have like some kind of a clear path and communication versus bureaucracy is like this. So think about differentiating between bureaucracy and governance. The third legacy tools that I like to highlight here on is the culture and change management. So why culture is important? Because honestly, I mean, any business strategy is as good as the people implementing it, right? But the people are as good as the culture that allowed them to be who they are. And the culture is as good as the leaders who are forming this culture. So the tone starts from the top. Good leaders build positive cultures inspire people, and the people deliver the strategy. So always think about that culture. So when we think about the leaders, again, remember that top, the leaders, many times we focus on intelligent or IQ intelligent quotients. So when we hire people and leaders, we hire them because of their resume and their background and their experience, because they're visionary, knowledgeable, experienced, competent, focused, and so on and so forth. But what we do not really focus on most of the day is the emotional quotient, which is the EQ. So have we kind of always thought about like how do we hire and bring leaders who have high degree of emotional quotients, that are calm, communicators, courageous, problem solvers, self-aware, self-motivated, and most importantly with empathy, so they understand their employees and work with them. So when we combine those two, then you will have a more successful, much effective leader. So when you build the leader and the leader builds the culture, then you start to see a good culture normally in place. So what are the symptoms of good culture? Well, successful, profitable business, team spirit, effective leadership, work-life balance. You walk into the people's office or to organizations, the first thing you feel is like this positive energy flowing through. So think about those, that good culture that enables a smile and pleasant attitude, and people would just say, you know what, we're happy where we are, although we maybe are not making the most money, but we're really happy. So you see that energy also flowing in the atmosphere. So those are the symptoms of good culture. The other topic that I also want to talk about is that many times when you're leading projects, many organizations, they say we don't need change management. We're just gonna go on and enable those projects. Then around like midway through, they realize, you know what, we may need some change management. So let's do some training and communication. And then towards kind of the end, it was like, oops, then they fall short on what they're doing. So normally this is how it works, with projects that have a cycle of initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, control, and close. Many organizations start to realize the change management need towards the end. While in reality, it should be like this. Change management and project management should go hand in hand. So statistically, when we're doing this right, projects are 6 times more we are 6 times more able to increase the chance of meeting and exceeding scope, 1.5 times more chance to deliver initiatives within budget, and 3 times more likely to deliver within schedule. And those are statistical. And if anybody would like to see the source, please let me know. This is from Proqis, who have done this research for many years. So back to the basic. Keep it simple. How do we continually enable value creation? Focus on your customers. Pay attention to the customer journey, the needs, the wants that triggers the consideration, that triggers the purchase, that enable them to use and retain the products, and then repeat and or dispose those products, and then promote and tell their friends and families and colleagues about those products, and then back to the basic or back to the beginning, where again you start to trigger that want and awareness. So always focus on your customers. They're the one paying your salary. Data is power, so utilize it. Without data, we're just people with opinion. So we know the different stages of data. Data start with like raw forms of data, like facts and numbers and figures. Then when you put it all together, you start to figure to form an information. The data starts to tell you something. When you put it together, then you start to see trends and indicators that tells you what the data is trying to bring your attention to. That kind of forms a knowledge and a decision for you to say, okay, now I want to do this or that, which becomes like as part of a wisdom, and that wisdom becomes like an experience. So think about that. The data is very important. So utilize it. And there's, again, like we're going to talk a little bit about data today. And utilize technology. Technology is very important because it creates new ways to please customers. It also increase efficiency because we can increase value with less efforts. Try to avoid technical debt. Try not to put band-aid over a band-aid or over a band-aid. Try, if possible, to bring a harmonized roadmap and focus on what really matters. That roadmap, that digital roadmap, should kind of be all talking to each other's. So try not to increase technical debt. And try to also build internal talent that leverage and utilize technology all the time. So so we talked about innovation, we talked about culture, we talked about people. Let's try always to be efficient and consistent. So this is like one-on-one or 101 lean and waste elimination and Six Sigma. Just a little bit about that topic. We want to reduce waste or eliminate waste and reduce variation. So we want to make sure that we are efficient and we're consistent. We're delivering consistency to our organization. So also think about that. Think about how you can leverage efficiency and consistency in your organizations. The mantra of this era is speed. So always think about how you can, deliver value to your customers and your shareholders. Maybe without waiting for perfection, so add incremental value. So because customers are not waiting anymore and competitors are going at 100 miles per hour, so you may want to always be agile and think about introducing value fast. The last topic I want to talk about is satisfying communities, because we forget about this most of the time, and this is an extremely important topic. Whether it's diversity and inclusion that you actually champion, ethical responsibility, social responsibility, environmental responsibility, goodwill, support those that protect us and serve us, and of course, support those who are less lucky than us. Whatever that you want to do, this is the right thing to do at the end of the day. And honestly, we have seen from experience that it does also increase bottom line. So it's a win-win situation, because when you do this well, you get better quality employees, you get better quality suppliers. You see the whole community, both physical and cyber community, by the way, helps and rally to help you when you need. So those are the topics I want to talk about: strategy, delivery, and culture, and serving customers, shareholders, customers, employees, and the community. So what if I told you that you can throw all of that out of the window if you do not protect your shareholders, your stakeholders? So whether it's shareholders, customers, employees, and communities, you really need to throw everything we talked about out of the window. Well, yes. Why this is becoming an important topic, and specifically in the financial industry, because right now, if we do not do this, we lose credibility very, very, very fast, and it's a quick decline of the business operation. So when we are protecting shareholders, for example, make sure that we do not jeopardize safer for better and faster and more efficient. So always safety first. there's no point of satisfying our shareholders if we put their company in imminent danger. So remember like Enron and WorldCom, back in the days. Yes, they were for a short period of time, they were like adding a lot of value, accelerating growth across multiple jurisdictions, but they did not do it in a safer way, or in a safe way that they actually made more problems for their companies that they did well. I mean, we all also understand and heard about the Wells Fargo issue that happened a year ago, where they were trying to use like fake accounts to leverage some of the activities and or services. So again, like do not focus only on better and faster and cheaper. Safety always first. So think about that. Then second, make sure that you protect your customers. So protecting them is more important than addressing their needs. So if you address their needs but you are not protecting them, then you're putting them in harm. So remember the Boeing 737 MAX 8 a couple of years ago. It was much faster and better, but it was not safer. It caused several casualties, unfortunately at that time. So remember that you need to protect your customers before you satisfy their needs. The next one is protecting your employees, health and safety in their workspace, privacy of their information, and of course, make sure that you protect them against other things that lure them, like, gifts and make sure you have acceptable practices and regulations, right? And the next item is protecting the community. So whether being a responsible citizen, or protecting the environment, or increase green space. I mean, again, think about the reducing carbon dioxide in the environment, because I think protecting the environment would also help us and our organization. Is kind of a karma in one way or another. So make sure you protect the shareholders, customers, employees, and communities. So as part of protecting customers, shareholders, communities, and employees, data security is one thing that is becoming a major factor here and major focus, because the threat of data breach is now much larger than what we have had before, and much larger than what people realize. So in the past, I remember back in like the 80s and 90s, when people, and specifically financial organizations or organizations, when they wanted to protect their environment, they would just unplug, and they would say you cannot put any USB or any CD or anything in the computer. That does not help anymore. We cannot unplug anymore. We are a 100% connected environment. We connect through the cloud, our systems in the cloud, our companies have social media channels, and everything now is connected. So, but now with everything connected, there's no 100% security, by the way. No matter who tells you what, there is no 100% security. You try to achieve that 100% security, but it's not always 100%. Criminals are always, finding ways to go around, and maybe it's just a mistake or negligence, or maybe a dissatisfied employee, and maybe some kind of a loophole in the system that would trigger a criminal to go there and steal your information, and then they actually are able to quickly monetize that. Whether they're able to sell it, they would go for a ransom, and I mean the damage is catastrophic. So think about data security. So when we talk about data security, let's talk about like the very basic principles of data security. We target the data at rest, which is stored data, and where do you store the data, and how you're storing the data. So make sure that you have like multi-layer of protection. You separate locations. I mean, maybe different cloud providers these days. Authentication, like these days, like you go to log into your bank account and it tells you, please enable two authentication or two-level authentication. So you log in, then they ask for your phone number, so they text you, and then when they text you actually answer, or you put the code, and then you are able to log into because they are trying to enable this multi-level authentication. And make sure that whatever you have in the data at rest stores. It's kind of encrypted, so people who even are able to get it, they cannot really translate it because it's encrypted. The next one is data in use. So when you are using the data, so you pulled it out from that box, and now you're using the data. This is called data in use. And that's like more vulnerable than the data at rest because somebody is using it. So again, like ensure that you control the access, who has access to the data at rest and who can bring it. And then how do you also continue to diagnose and monitor the traffic around those data at rest to ensure that, yes, people are getting it at the right time, and those who are getting this data are authorized to get the data, and there's no leak somewhere else. So ensure that there's no suspicious activities over there. The third one is data in motion, which is transmitting. It's in transit data. So you're taking it from your hard drive to your computer, from your cloud to your screen. This is the most vulnerable state. So ensure that you have data encryption, end-to-end encryption that will allow people, even if people try to interject this channel, they cannot make any sense of that data encryption or of that data because it's so encrypted. So ensure that you prevent interception at the beginning, and then ensure that your data is encrypted. So again, all of this is what I wanted to talk about. It's all available in my book, Change to Win, which is on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and Apple, and it's also available on riasattar.com. So with that, I would like to thank you all for your attention. And I'm hoping that I was able to add value and bring some thoughts and about strategy, delivery, and culture, and of course about how to protect your shareholders, your customers, your employees, and your community. So again, like I'm hoping that you have had a good time listening to my presentation. Jose, if there's any questions you may have for me, please let me know.
I do. I'm just waiting for you. There you go, to stop showing your screen so that I can come back in. Perfect. Awesome. So Rias, thank you so much. You cover end-to-end, business transformation. You left no stone unturned. And that's very great coverage. So the commentary and some of the questions have to do with the final focus that you had. You presented this beautiful view of how to do successfully lead transformation, and then you say throw everything away if you don't have the protection of the stakeholders. Okay, when in your maturity process as a leader and working with many different organizations, this has become kind of a top priority. What has happened there?
Well, Jose, it seems like sometimes when we are like at war, we're trying to conquer a new market or a new product, whatever, we have like many casualties, unfortunately. One of the casualties is data security, and we become so focused on the goal and like marching forward that we leave loopholes along the way. Those loopholes could be in speed, like because we wanted to like reach there faster, so we've like, you know what, we were like let's oversee this, let's not pay attention to this because it's not that big of a deal. And then a month later, that not so big of a deal becomes a monster that haunts you forever. One thing sometimes is just negligence. I'll give you an example. There was one casino a few years ago. They had an aquarium, a big aquarium, Jose, and that aquarium had like fish, and they wanted to put their fish in there. So the supplier of the aquarium said, we need to have a certain monitor to gather information about the water, the salt and the chlorine and whatever particles, to ensure that those fish, exotic fish, live very well. So they asked the IT people, okay, we just need to make sure that this transmits signal to our system, so at least we know what's going on, so we can supply you with the chemicals. So they said, yeah, you can log into this Wi-Fi that we have. It's secured Wi-Fi in our environment. So they actually give them the Wi-Fi password of their, not the guest Wi-Fi, the corporate Wi-Fi. So they get into the Wi-Fi. It was working for a month or two, and somebody hacked that aquarium system. And whoever hacked that aquarium system went there and hacked their client system because they had access. And from that little chip on an aquarium, they were able to access, employees' information, social security information, customer information, name it. So sometimes it's just about negligence. So you have to coach and teach people that it's black and white. I mean, when it comes to data security, it's right or wrong. There's no midway. It's either right or wrong. So don't jeopardize, again, safer, better, faster, beautiful, whatever, with safety.
This is a really interesting analogy, because I thought you're going to go with this example. You're going to start talking about the fact that everybody was very excited about having this aquarium, but over time, the person who just had that idea kind of left the organization, and other people were not so passionate about the aquarium, and the fish started to die over time. Because that's another thing, right? If you do an analogy now with technology, people get
Yes.
excited about what's cool right now, and then 2 or 3 years later, they're complaining about something because it's not being properly maintained anymore. The excitement about implementing something kind of has died a slow death. And then again, a bit of the analogy of the aquarium here, you can have cracks that happen, physical cracks, and in this case, digital cracks that emerged. So it's part of your message here is to take an inventory of where we are in our organizations, and making sure that we still have a strong foundation, that making sure that we are maintaining what we have well before we go after the next thing.
Yes, I mean it's maintaining, it's protecting, it's a continuous effort, really. I mean, it should be part of our strategy, and I always pay attention to safety. I mean, and again, like sometimes it's minor, but sometimes you think it's minor, but it comes back and haunts you. I mean, you think about like those ransomware. I mean, like we've heard about like big organizations, like government organizations sometimes, that even get hacked. Like, how would that happen? I don't think the system is the problem. I think it could be just a bad practice. Somebody decided to go on a website that they're not supposed to, or click on a link that they're not supposed to. Something triggered that intrusion. So you have to educate your people about the importance of data security or security. I mean, whether it's again, physical security. When you see something on the floor, pick it up and put it on the garbage, because somebody can slip. So think about like the safer, and then better, faster, cheaper, because I think that safety element. And again, we were talking today about the financial services, and the financial services specifically, it's a service. It's not really a physical product. Most of the time, it's service. And it's all about data. I mean, you're dealing with money, you're dealing with numbers, you're dealing with access to systems, you're dealing with access to POS and payments and collection and whatever, and ATMs. It's all about data. If you do not have like a very solid practice to secure this end to end, then you will have many issues. People can steal other people's money. Hackers can steal your information and then sell it to another company or another country. You never know.
So when you talk about this protection, you had a very strong focus on cybersecurity and digital data and things like that. Are there other aspects of this protection that we should be aware of? What else? What are other categories of protection that we should be looking at?
I mean, of course, there are multi. I mean, this topic can extend for hours, and it may have its own session. But in just bringing it simply, it's. I mean, when we talk about like data security, it is mainly those three elements that we talked about. It's the storage, where you put your data, who uses the data, and how the data gets transmitted from the where storage to the people who are using this. So it's kind of those three elements basically. So, and everything is built around those three elements, whether it is where you store it. Is it on the cloud, or is it on a server in a back door where it's locked somewhere in the office? So it is that data at rest. Where does it rest? And then the people who are using this, who has access, who has the key to that cabinet, and or who has the password and admin password to that cloud system. So that kind of who has the access and who's getting that information. And then how is it transmitted? Is it the Wi-Fi? Is it the Bluetooth? Is it the wire? Is somebody who is trying to, you know, hack, lag, and get into your Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or NFC or I mean, now with IoT and I mean, everything is kind of, you know, really exposed. I mean, Internet of Things, and of course, like, your business cannot scale these days without technology. You cannot really read people, customer, employees, kind of, and specifically customer behavior and journey, and get back like live feedback about their information without data. So if you do not secure this data, it can be leaked very, very quickly and be used against you.
Yeah, and the Rios, just to follow up on that and clarify. So we got the data side of things and the cybersecurity side of things, the digital assets. But some of the examples that you talked about and the need for protection, I think were cracks in culture, cracks in strategy, cracks in other areas. So can you talk a little bit about the non-digital stuff? What are the other cracks that we have to protect, and how the organization should go about doing that?
Definitely. So let's talk about strategy, delivery, and culture. So strategy, most of the cracks in the strategy they come from different senior people at the C-suite pulling in different direction. And each person has his or her own agenda and or, you know, thing to focus on without like a proper, again, that northern star. So the tone should start from the top, whether it's the member of the board or chairman of the board or the CEO, whoever the top person is, the message should be coming from there. That will be the focus. Otherwise, you'll see cracks in the strategy. So, and then not only putting that in place, we want to make sure that that person or those people who are making that strategy decision do not have that sexy, shiny object syndrome. They, every time somebody bring them a new idea and a new thing, it's like, okay, let's do this. No, let's do this, let's do that. So it's more about focus. Now, sometimes I'm not saying it should be curved in stone, but it should be some sort of like stable, scalable, sustainable versus, and then maybe you can always adjust midway, but it's not like you are shifting direction significantly. So the cracks in the strategy happen there. Maybe the strategy from the beginning was wrong. Maybe you're focusing your Kodak, you're still focusing on Polaroid, where digital pictures are like, growing, or you're focusing still on like DVD renting versus like doing online, like Blockbuster. All right. So sometimes the crack is in the strategy itself, and sometimes the crack can happen with people pulling from different directions, and sometimes it is from that whoever made the strategy getting pulled in different direction. From a delivery perspective, the cracks can happen most of the time, almost all the time, because of lack of discipline. The lack of that EPMO or project management discipline. Each person in the organization has their own method of delivering projects, have their own projects. The new projects coming in every day. They put a lot of pressure on like maybe like one person in technology who has to handle 1,700 initiatives, while we should make sure that our capacity of people also has been monitored, and who's doing what in the organization. We're burning tires, we're driving, we're burning tires, but we're not going the right direction. Each person is doing something and using a certain tool. So that's why a governance is really needed to ensure that we have a proper intake of ideas, know what we are doing, and then do it right. So the practices and tools and techniques. From a culture perspective, the cracks can always happen from lack of that leadership, inspiring that leadership who may actually preach something but does not act as what he or she is preaching, and that's about again, being genuine about the company, being genuine about that positive culture, being genuine about diversity and inclusion, and being genuine about protecting employees. Protect your employees against other employees, maybe who may take advantage of them, and or maybe customers, and or maybe the environment, right? So making sure that that leader brings the culture, and the culture brings the employees together who actually create that strategy.
Rias, it's always a pleasure. Ribamar Matias, one of our participants, has just written that I love this guy's presentation. I'm buying his book. The book is Change to Win by Rias Attar. Make sure to check it out. You can find it in where you find books these days, Amazon and other sites. And Rias, thank you for taking the time to share that wisdom with our global audience today.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rias Attar again with us. Always an awesome part of our events, and a master class on culture, business, and digital transformation, and a focus on protecting your business and protecting the stakeholders, all stakeholders in an organization. We're going to be taking a break now, and when we come back, we're going to have a treat. We're going to have a trio of cross-industry leaders who are going to discuss with us how to harness digital AI-infused operational excellence for financial services. And we have three leaders who are coming together to give you this presentation, and world-class leaders of excellence, innovation, culture, business, and digital transformation, focusing on financial services. So take a break now, and we'll get back in at the top of the hour with harnessing digital AI infused operational excellence for financial services.